beauty of this is showing the emptiness of the landscape. But the diagonal of wondering if a train is going to be coming in, and the railroad crossing signals are no longer there. That was the old-fashioned way of letting you know a train may come by. So in your imagination, can you think that off to the side here there might be a train?
Mm-hmm.
San Javier Del Mar Mission, and it's in Tucson. And the beauty of this is it was completed in 1797 by Father Kino, who traveled Mexico, Arizona, and California, establishing missions. And this one is a great example of early colonial Spanish architecture. And again, it was completed in 1797. What was happening out in Virginia during that period of time compared to the rest of the country? This one, of course, is one of my favorite. This is by Pingree, North Dakota, just outside of Jamestown. And it was just this lonesome old barn. I call it the old homestead. But it doesn't want to fall. It doesn't want to. It's dilapidated, but it doesn't want to collapse upon itself. It's still fighting to maintain its pride.
Had a lot of comments on this one.
Yeah, the rusted horse trough has it's just a beauty of its own. Even though it's old, it's decrepit, but the nails are rusty. The whole thing is kind of rusty, and the windows are closed. And maybe, can you just think back what it might have been in the far right-hand corner? The door is open. And do you think maybe you could see a horse maybe putting his head out?
Mm-hmm.
But the sway of the roof was what caught a lot of attention. And that was taken out of my front door. I opened up my front door in my front yard and looked out, and gosh, that sky was too much to not take a picture of. Tucson sunsets are always unique. If the photograph itself is on film, it's exactly what it looked like. To me, the reproduction looks like a watercolor. This one is Ventana Canyon, and the neat thing about this particular picture is an artist friend of mine wanted to work with blues, the grays, and just the different different colors of the desert. He made his whole exhibit on this particular picture. This is one of my favorites.
And you sold one of these.
Yes, I did. My tripod, if I may point, my tripod is right about here. Mm-hmm. Our living apartments that we lived in were right around the corner. And this, even though it looks like a city below, it's actually, there's cars. Right, this is a carport. So I was very close to this lightning bolt. Had the lens open for that few seconds, and I got the picture. Isn't it interesting, the purpleness of the sky and the radiance of the lightning bolt, not only just coming down to the ground, but stretching across the sky. Trails end, notice the saguaro, right, and that's kind of unusual to have a saguaro that high in the Catalina mountains. It's about around 5,000 feet. Most of the saguaros are ranging around 3,000 to 4,000 feet. I decided trails end because it looks like there was a storm coming, time to turn around. This is the Sunrise Trail in Catalina State Park. Springtime with the poppies coming out. There's a couple different saguaros. You have the singular ones, And then the swirl with the arms coming out from the stem. That's the swirl. That's a whole different plant. Organ pipe cactus. The side of the road is right here. The importance of that particular photo is not only the grayness of the skies and the snow, but the pebble, the adobe house, which you don't see anymore. That's a saguaro cactus out just in the desert, and I call it serenity because of the peacefulness that it has. The top one is a prickly pear cactus. The fruit of that prickly pear is edible, makes for jelly. Cactus heads can be eaten if you're out in the desert. Scrape off the needles in case you need some water. This again is in my backyard with that floral, which was an organ pipe cactus. But notice some insect that might be crawling on the inside of the flower. And this one is a wonderful example of the night Bloomingosaurus cactus. And this blooms in spring, and it's only at night when it blooms. When it's done blooming, the plant itself is just a green stalk, and oftentimes it looks dead. In San Javier Mission, the wooden pews, it was built by the Apache and Pima Indians.
This is the altar?
Yes. And that's the Last Supper, which in church times, a picture explained things so much easier to understand by visual. Talking about visual, this is the back of the church, of the mission. January thaw. This was taken up in North Dakota, about 50 miles from Jamestown, but it's in the higher elevation, so the clouds that you see in the horizon, those are coming up from the bottom valley, coming up to the top.
The texture of the snow is
kind of, it's mixed with dirt, so it's called, we would call it snert, S-N-E-R-T. This is our little schoolhouse in North Dakota again, and it's all by itself. It was saved by a farmer with a little outhouse off to the side. And this is spring thaw, again with the dirty snow. The schoolhouse in the dead of winter. This is after a good blizzard, of North Dakota blizzard. My favorite shots, we call the frosted tree. It was taken, again, outside in the prairie of North Dakota just after a good blizzard. And it was a chill. It was 20 below zero when this picture was taken. This is my hallmark, typical hallmark picture. But it just shows a lane going back, stretching across to wherever the imagination might take it. And in the upper right-hand corner, I think you'll find a squirrel's nest. This is what they call the Lakeside Lodge. It's in the mountains of Arizona, east of Phoenix. And if you can find just as a little boat off on the right side.
Little fisherman in there or something?
Yeah, a little guy fishing there.